we have Ian. I really want to talk to Ian. When it comes to combating the false narratives that we are inundated with constantly, Ian's one of the best people, I think, online that he's breaking down so many narratives, things that might sound taboo to some, but I think they're important, and he's great at it. And he gives me hope because people are tuning into him a lot to see what he has to say. And that gives me hope because it's like, I think some of my favorite people are the people who subvert the so-called narratives that are out there. We'll say Alex Jones, we got Sam Tripoli. I love these people because they offer different angles into quote unquote reality. And I think these conversations are really important. And the fact that people are tuning into them means that more people have an appetite for actual reality, whatever that means.
I'm excited to hear what he has to say.
Yeah.
Ian, I try to stay hopeful, but
we have to stay hopeful. I reject the black pill. Even though we're surrounded by false realities, and you and I are parents, and we have to, our children are inheriting the dark world. That is a cyclical thing. It's nothing unique to today. It only feels unique because we're here right now. But my grandparents dealt with similar situations, and their parents dealt with similar situations. It just looks a little different. And no matter how modern we might appear,
history repeats itself.
History repeats itself, but we're always barbaric. But we're also always. We should remain filled with joy and want our kids to be aware of the darkness, but also have hope to continue, because that's all we can do. So let's talk to Ian. Let's see what his take is on all this madness.
Ian, are you with us?
Yeah, how's it going, guys?
Yo,
hi, good to
my
see
man.
You.
So sorry for the delay, but it's
all good, brother.
It is great to have you here. So I wanted to ask you, was there a certain event that you noticed in the news recently, or like in your younger years, that you noticed and said, hey, reality is not what it seems to be?
Yeah, I think definitely for me, and I think probably for most people, it sort of is like a slow cascade and then all at once.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, I don't know what set it off, but I remember watching things like Zeitgeist, like years and years ago, things about like 9/11 and stuff that just kind of started like the gears turning. And then it was, COVID and the 2020 like election and all that, everything that started in 2020, like got a lot of people asking questions. And it was GameStop that finally pushed me over the edge, because I was following that community from 2021 onwards and watching them dig open the financial system and just sort of like air out all the dirty laundry. And it became immediately apparent that everything is a lie and we know who is behind it.
Yeah, well, that's so true. And that was such a great insight into the manipulated world, because people look at Wall Street as like a fixed, institution that runs on math and, it's all up to us and or the people behind, but it's the people behind the curtains pulling these strings. And I remember GameStop. I wasn't as, I don't think I was following as closely as you were, but I did read about it, and I did make some money off it. I was an adjunct professor at the time. I made more off some of that GameStop money than I did as a professor, which was quite nice. But if you remember, I forget who it was, what platform it was, but they were turning off everyone's ability to trade at a certain point. And you're like, oh, that shouldn't happen. Do you remember that?
Yeah, openly criminal in front of the whole world.
Was that something that was happening on Reddit?
Reddit was where like a lot of the momentum, the regular people's momentum to buy and to hold came from. And then it was all of the trading softwares that make trading really accessible to regular people. They all use the same like brokerage firms above them that told them all to turn off the buy button, which stopped everyone from making the price go up and getting hyped, and everyone got scared. Just openly fraudulent.
It seems like any time the people are able to subvert the system, they throw a wrench in it. They don't care if it's public. They expose themselves and they're like, you know what? Yeah, we got to do it because we can't let them get away with this, which is what was happening with GameStop. And I think it's also happening with the way we share information,
Absolutely. It's happening right now today in front of everyone's eyes.
Constantly. Right. Like, do you experience on different platforms, different levels of censorship when you talk about different things?
100%. And I think that it's actually trained me, because I started on TikTok is where I grew really big at first. That's how I kind of came out of nowhere.
Right.
And TikTok is heavily censored, and they censor on topics that are near and dear to like the CIA and American establishment's heart. And so that censorship in my sort of like formative time on social media trained me both like how to talk around it and how to sort of create content that suggests what we all should be thinking about without necessarily like saying too much and getting censored. But it also trained me to sort of look for censorship as like a beacon of where we should be going. Because if we're not supposed to talk about it, we're definitely going to talk about it.
So I agree. And I have two fears that stem out of what you just said, though. One being that the algorithm will be trained to then pick up on the way we subvert the narrative, the censorship, you know, like they're gonna be like, well, we're just gonna have a larger umbrella of words that we censor now because they found new words to, you know, go around and make these loopholes. And the other is the institutions, the CIAs, the feds, they're gonna be like, well, now we want to censor certain people to make other people think that they're the right people to listen to, because they know that censorship is like a reward. So when it comes to all of that, how do you, because you do such a great job of sourcing material, showing people videos, sending people on their own goose chases, which is what should be happening. How do you discern what to believe or what to trust when it comes to doing your investigations?
That's such an important question for everyone to ask themselves. I don't decide to trust anything. I don't ever, like, even when I'm like presenting sources, that's just one option. And in my mind, I think of it like the way I think that all journalists think, and probably all of us, everyone, regular people should think these days, is that information is all under attack, and anything that has to do with like anything that has a financial incentive, whether it's a product or a narrative or a political thing, there's huge amounts of money invested in changing our minds about it. So it's all psyops in every direction, in every space. And so every piece of information that I get, I just take it as one, like every theory is in my mind, and I just look for evidence for all of them. And I look for corroboration of all that evidence. And I never like rule anything out or decide on anything. Certainly, I just keep on kind of investigating all of it all at once. And you can never really like wind up at knowing for sure what's real, which I think is the right way to look at reality. But you can certainly hone in on what you expect to be real. And then as we go forwards, you can look for evidence that you're right. And that can kind of take you closer to what is probably going on. Yeah.
God forbid you have any nuance in your investigations. My goodness. You wouldn't hear this in the corporate media, because this is what I tell people. I'm sure you get it too. You know, people know we work in this, you know, independent media space, and they'll be like, you know, these people, my friends, family, be like, how do you discern what's true or not? I'm like you just unfortunately have to do your own thing. If you're going to be passionate about wanting to understand these things, you have to then have like a buffet of a media diet and just go with your gut and not pick and choose, but like read from here, read from there, compare, contrast, and just know it's going to change. It's like actual science, not the bad kind of science that they try to weaponize these days, but like you have to read and just be willing to know when you've been had by certain information, certain trending things.
But I think no matter how much you read and how much you're open to, like, you still don't know.
Yeah,
100%.
Right.
Yeah, it's decision. It's like discernment by consensus, right? Yeah. And we can all, because it used to be discernment by sort of centralized reporting telling us, and that kind of worked back when journalists had more integrity, but that has been chipped away by big money for ages now. And now there are issues with discernment by consensus, like the decentralized take on media, right? Yep. But I mean, like, yeah, we get some things wrong. We go down the wrong rabbit holes. We maybe over speculate, but I'll take those problems over the problems of centralization any day.
Oh, dude, totally agree. I think being accountable to the audience and and without having a middleman is much healthier for a media diet than the corporate press being beholden to advertisers, which are typically advertising things that want to poison you. Which is funny. Like with centralized media, I think a lot about JFK for various reasons, whether it was Northwoods and the assassination, all these things. But his relationship with the media was so interesting because I think he was obviously a very flawed man. He did a lot of very bad things morally, in my opinion. But there's a great interview with him, Brinkley and someone else, I forget who it was, two reporters. Maybe you've seen this. It was in September of '63, 2 months before he was assassinated. And you can see the outtakes on YouTube. And these two talking heads are, I believe, in the Oval Office with him, interviewing him about policy, taxes, all this stuff. And they go through asking him questions. He answers. And then they look around to the producers and be like, should we do it again? And it's like this odd respect. I'm putting that in quotes because it's gross. Yeah. It's gross because they wouldn't offer that to Trump or, you know, any subverter these days. And in a weird way, JFK was a subverter, but the relationship he had with the press was way different. And they were willing to be like, "Oh, you can do it again. Fine, no problem." You know, it's disgusting, I think.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people don't realize that the media, that the people that have large amounts of power to sort of control narratives, control the world, like all the groups that are in that game, they've been learning, just like we all learn. And they've been passing that knowledge down from generation to generation. Like that's just how the human race learns. And as technology has evolved, they've all evolved with it. And so their techniques and their ability to do these things has changed over time, and they've gotten better at it from learning from big mistakes. And a good example right now is like how the mainstream media and the like Democratic establishment in this instance treated the 2016 election and then the 2020 election and now the 2024 election. You can watch them learning in real time what they do and don't need to do, what does and does not work, what is and is not a red line that it's like just cross it regardless because we need to. Yep. It's fascinating to watch.
I mean, when you realize that you've inherited a war on reality, and the war is happening on literally every front of your existence, whether it's what you eat, drink, what you read, watch, what you listen to, the music. I mean, the sky's weaponized. Everything's been weaponized against you.
No one's safe.
No one, you're not safe. And it's happening from both sides, the uniparty, left, right, whatever you want to call it. Everyone wants control over you. They want your vote. They want your money. They want to keep you alive just enough so they can keep force feeding you whatever they poison they need you to have. You did something recently in terms of like people who manipulate reality, content creators who are being paid by political parties to, you know, present certain opinions. Would you say they're presenting opinions, right? Or are they more of a perception sort of a party?
Yeah, and this is not new, and it's been exposed in various forms for a little while now, but like influencers and content creators their importance has grown tremendously since the last election. Yeah. And this has been going on for a while, but I just made a piece about there's a lot of sort of already Democrat leaning influencers right now that are getting invited by the Democratic Party and getting paid to go and go to conferences and like sort of get messaging on brand and then put that messaging out, and they're not disclosing that messaging is actually associated with a paid campaign. And I've been approached by these agencies too. They approach you in a way that is like, it's an email usually in my experience. And it says something along the lines of like, hey, we're a marketing brand or an agency that wants to like leverage influencers to talk about what really matters. And you're a voice that really matters. And we don't want to like change your content. We just want to pay you to put out the opinions you're already putting out because it's so great. And they make it seem like it's like all hunky-dory, they're on your team, and they want to just pay you for what you're already doing. And it's time for influencers to sort of like grow a little bit with the times and realize what they're actually being asked to do is not ever as pure as let me give you free money to put out like unfiltered content about whatever you want.
So I don't know much about the influencer world, but coming from like the journalism world, 101 is you don't take money from a source, right? And I would never. I've been offered money, or the other way around. They wanted me to pay to have access. Neither of those things will ever happen because the second you do that, you're beholden. It's like having an advertiser wedged between your network broadcasting, and then they own you, right? To some degree, and it also discredits you.
The issue with the content creation space is that it inherently fudges the boundaries between that, because content creators it's okay to like take a brand deal, and that's like essential to the content creator ecosystem. But the moment that you have content creators that are basically journalists, and then they're bringing that brand deal template into the journalism space, suddenly you've just crossed a huge red line, and there's no clear norms about, well, there are, but people are just ignoring them.
For sure. I think you need to navigate it with having a sense of morals, and obviously there's broadcasters on YouTube, TikTok, whatever, TV that do ad reads and whatnot, and you have to pick and choose those from a moral standpoint. I would like to think so. Obviously not the big guys who have Pfizer everywhere.
But like being on social media and being an influencer, I mean, you're already putting yourself in a position. Well, like you might as well just cancel social media then.
But the thing is, it's evolved into being the media landscape, right? So,
Yep.
and that world has subverted the corporate world, which is why the political world is now attacking it like they used to attack the corporate press, right? Because they see that as the future. Like you're saying, they're learning in real time, like we're learning in real time. And evil's very smart, unfortunately, you know, and they're like, oh, this is the voice of the generation. Let's send them money. And a lot of people will take that money, you know, and taking money from politicians is I think, egregious, especially if they want you. You know, there's a video of a young lady, I think it was on TikTok, and she was approached by, I want to say it was Biden. And she gave a good rundown of kind of what you're talking about. Like, they approached me, they wanted me to basically remain the same and do my content, but they invited me to the White House, and they want to be presented like as a cool, you know, they're cool, they're social media. Yeah. And I understand it, because all politicians forever have done that. This is just the new vessel in which they do it. You know, it used to be the papers, and then it was TV, and now it's YouTube and TikTok. And I mean, Trump's on TikTok now. Yep. The biggest name in politics understands that the voice to the younger crowd. I mean, you would know this better than me. Is there like a certain demographic that uses TikTok more? Is it younger, or is it more of a wider age group?
Sort of. It started out younger, and in general, it's younger still. But I think that a lot of people don't realize that TikTok is actually way bigger than that. And one of the biggest things about TikTok is that it's really good for small businesses. And so there are a lot of young kids on TikTok, but there's just like everyone on TikTok. There are old people on TikTok, like middle-aged people. It's not a demographic anymore. It's almost more like a type of user. It's a user that enjoys. It's like a more personable interaction, because TikTok does not filter towards like Instagram filters towards sort of high production value and sort of viral content, whereas TikTok filters towards like personal content and conversational content, which is why you get a lot of talking head videos, a lot of informational videos. And that inherently is great for small businesses. It's great for brands that are advertising like it's great for authenticity if you're giving authenticity. And now the corporate and political space are trying to infiltrate that authenticity, just like you're saying. And
like they always do.
Exactly. And I think that we are just in a learning curve where influencers need to sort of realize that they can catch up to that curve, and there are moral ways to approach that problem that Alex is talking about if we take that power back. And so like a lot of influencers are still operating in this mindset of like, it's okay to take brand deals and I got to make a living, and brand deals are how you do it. And everyone, it's like not a big deal. People know that it's like but then they don't like put clear enough boundaries in their minds. And like, and so when I started, a lot of my platform was talking about who owns everything and calling out all these giant corporations that own everything on our shelves. And so I made a commitment to myself from the start that I'm not going to do any brand deals with any big corporations, because that would inherently compromise my content. And my whole point is to talk shit about them. So why would I be taking their money?
It's also why I feel like presidents shouldn't be like, there shouldn't be any money in our government at all. Like, you want to run for president, you don't need to fund money, like raise money.
I agree,
like,
100%.